What's up guys, welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks. I'm your host Caleb. Today we are completely gutting the Abzan armor precon and upgrading it on a budget. We're gonna have to take over 20 cards out of this precon to make it playable and make it super efficient, so that's exactly what we're gonna do. Right after you click on that whatnot link in the description down below, you'll get a free $15 whenever you click on that link, and it helps out the channel. Additionally, you can get 20% off all of your Tolarian library proxies whenever you use code DT4D. Now let's get right into this precon upgrade. First off, we have two commanders to choose from, and both of the strategies are very specific and very split. So what's happened here is we're just playing a lot of useless cards depending on which commander you want to go for. I think you almost have to choose Felothar because there's just not a lot of support for Betor. While I think Betor is the more fun commander, we do have to go with Felothar here for the upgrade guide and keeping it on a budget. But if you guys did want a Betor budget deck, I already have a deck list up on my channel, so you can click the link here or in the description down below to see that. But let's talk about Felothar. This guy very clearly wants to be a defender deck, and there's only a limited amount of defenders in the deck, and they're also missing the best defenders. So we're going to up the defender count, we're going to upgrade it on a budget, we're going to include some non-budget options in the end of the video, so make sure to stay till then. But at the end of the day, hopefully we end up with a very efficient deck that runs very smooth. The first thing we're going to add to this deck is more walls and more defenders. We have Wall of Shards, Wall of Junk, and Wall of Tangle Cord. These are all amazing walls that are going to allow us to draw 8, 6, 7 cards. Even Wall of Ice is amazing here just for the insane card advantage for only 3 mana. Because remember, all we have to do is activate our commander and then we're drawing cards equal to the sacrificed creature's toughness. So boom, you get a fresh grip out of nowhere. Wall of Glare is also going to be very good here. It can block any number of creatures, but 2 mana for a 0/5 that we can sacrifice to draw 5 cards. We love that. Stalwart Shield Bearers is also pretty solid here. This is going to give all of our walls +0/+2, so that's just going to make them bigger in the toughness area. I also like Pit Automaton. This is one of the perfect cards for our commander because we can actually add 2 mana to our mana pool to activate abilities. That's really useful here because our commander does cost 3 mana to activate, which can be steep sometime. Flump is a really cool defender that allows us to kind of make deals with our opponent. They get an attack, we get a block, we both get card advantage out of it. So it's kind of a win-win, and the deck's doing what it needs to do. I also like including Gleaming Barrier. This is just going to be a 0/4 that we sacrifice, and then whenever it dies, we get a treasure token. Fortified Rampart, again, 2 mana for a 0/6, amazing here. Not only is this going to hit like a truck because our commanders allows these walls to attack as though they didn't have defender, additionally, it just draws us nearly an entire new hand, which is where the power of this commander lies. Crystal Barricade is going to give us hexproof so we can't be targeted, and then it's going to prevent all the non-combat damage that is going to get dealt to our other creatures. Archer's Parapet, pretty solid here, just a 2 CMC 0/5 that's just going to again hit like a truck and allow us to draw a ton of cards. Now let's get into the niche tech now that we've talked about the defenders. I like Ramus Iker Ancient Shield. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, draw a card, then you create a 0/3 wall creature token with defender. At the beginning of combat on your turn, creatures you control with defender gain Exalted. Until end of turn, whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each instance of Exalted among permanents you control. So let's say we have 5 walls, we attack with 1 creature, that creature is going to get +5/+5. This is going to allow us to draw even more cards off of our commander. Yes, we will have to discard 5 cards here, but again, we're drawing an additional 5 cards. And when we're drawing this amount of cards at a time, it really doesn't matter that we have to discard some of them because again, we're getting what we need whenever we get this amount of card selection. Beast Whisperer also seemed like a no-brainer here. We're casting a ton of creature spells, and a lot of these walls are very low casting cost. If you've noticed, a lot of them are 3, even 2 mana. So just being able to replace them whenever we cast them is super important. Even with our commander's card advantage, if our commander does get removed, we want to be able to rebuild from that and not have to recast him before we do anything. Fecund Greenshell, again, this is one of those cards that I think really should have been in the precon. It says reach as long as you control 10 or more more lands, creatures you control get +2/+2, so it's a solid anthem. And then it says, whenever Fecund Green Shell or another creature you control with toughness greater than its power enters the battlefield, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you can just put that right onto the battlefield. So we've got ramp, and then it says otherwise put it into your hand. So not only is this ramp, it's also card advantage, and that's what we love to see here. I'm also adding Toski and Oran Frostfang into the deck for more card advantage. This is just going to allow us to draw cards whenever we're dealing combat damage with our massive walls. Another thing I do want to mention is Oran Frostfang is kind of super deadly here now. He's usually a 2/6, but now he's a 6/6 kind of, because our commander allows him to deal combat damage with his toughness instead of his power. So just some added synergy there. We're also adding some more Skulk to the deck, because I just think that's a cool mechanic for this deck, allowing us to basically make all of our walls unblockable. So McCready is going to be perfect here. Breen is going to be a solid choice as well. I just wanted a little bit of more card advantage while having the option to buff up my creatures. If we make our creatures bigger, they're just going to draw us more cards whenever we sacrifice them. Speaking of drawing cards, and a lot of cards at that, we are going to add Psychosis Crawler to the deck. These walls are thick. A lot of them are 0/7s, there's some 1/8s, so we're drawing 7-8 cards at a time, and then Seedborn Muse is already in the Precon. So we're untapping our commander, and we have the ability to activate him 4 times a rotation. If you sacrifice 4 0/7s, that's going to allow us to deal over 28 damage with Psychosis Crawler in a rotation, because remember, this guy still gets to attack. Colfinner kind of seemed like a solid choice here as well, maybe like a secondary commander, or he just takes our commander to the next level. Now whenever we sacrifice a wall, we get to bring a wall with lesser toughness from our graveyard back to our hand, allowing us to cast them again, and that's going to trigger all of our Beast Whisper effects and just kind of catapult us ahead of our opponents. Another card that I think is going to put in work in this deck is Nethroi. Let's imagine our entire board gets wiped and we had a ton of walls on the battlefield. Now all we have to do is cast one more wall, and then we can mutate with Nethroi to pretty much reanimate our entire graveyard, because none of these things have any kind of power attached to them. I did want to mention some non-budget options. We have Tree of Perdition. This is like $11 and really takes this deck to the next level. We can just yoink our opponent's life total, and then we can go ahead and draw up to 40 cards. That's kind of insane. That's kind of the top end as well, but still, drawing that many cards and then you get to sculpt a perfect hand, pretty massive in this deck. Meek Stone is probably not okay, but I think it's super funny. This is about $10, and it says creatures with power 3 or greater don't untap during their controller's untap step. So now our walls just always stay untapped, and we just kind of control the entire board because our opponents can't really attack and they can't really defend because our walls are massive. It just leads us to winning the game eventually. Shield Sphere, I like this one because it's a 0 drop that's a 0/6, allowing us to just drop this and then pay 3 mana to draw 6 cards seems broken. Delny is going to be super solid here as well, just doubling up on all of our wall effects, all of our creature effects that have 0 power, and our commander's ability as well. So she does a lot of work here. And I know you guys are saying, hey, there's a little bit of a non-bow here with the Anthem effects, with some of the cards that take our creature's power above 0, but remember, our commander is a sack outlet. So maybe we have an Anthem on the battlefield that takes our creatures above that 2 power threshold, and we want to use Delny. Sacrifice that guy with your commander and you're off to the races. Don't forget guys, I do have that Betor deck list linked in the description down below, and I'll probably put it in the pinned comments. That way you guys can see 2 different versions of this deck. Shout out to my patrons, Irrelevant, Chicken Salad, Creator, The Professional Heal, and Excessum. You guys are amazing. I hope this helped you guys in your deck building endeavors, and I will see you in the next one.